Hello, hello. Can you guys see me? Hello. I don't know if you can see me now. Can you see me? You can? You can? Took a minute to get on. You can. Good, good, good. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. Peace, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me okay? Is it clear? Yep. All right. Peace. Please, peace, YouTube. This is FleurBrun coming to you today with a couple topics of discussion. Check on it. Woo! Can't stop, won't stop. Boy, YouTube isn't playing, y'all. Talk about censoring. Woo-wee. Okay, so let me put it a disclaimer. I am mentally ill. I am a wackadoodles. This is a comedian act. This is I reserve my rights to be a maniac. I have absolutely no medical credibility. What else? I'm a clown. I gotta put these things before I start because YouTube will take it down before I say anything for medical malpractice. So yeah, I'm a clown. I'm mentally ill. I'm socially disturbed. You know what I mean? Okay. So this is a skit. This is a comedy act. Okay. Before I start. You know what I mean? Oh, so check on in. I'll wait until a few more people check in. And well, Shelby, according to YouTube, I am a clown and I am a conspiracy theorist, which is a resurrected term that means absolutely nothing. I'm a terrorist. That's what they called me. I don't believe that, but you know, they believe that. Okay. I'm on a list when I fly now because the Willy Wonka system thinks I'm a danger to flying on a plane with me. Okay. So, you know, check on in, y'all. I think I have something in my teeth. I'm sorry if I do. Check on in. Okay, so I don't want to stay too long. I did change the title because that was the original title I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about blood types and bloodlines. Blood type matters. Okay. I'm going to bring up some misnomers. And like I said, I'm not a medical practitioner. I have absolutely no credibility. I'm a liar. I'm a maniac. I'm a crazy person. I am mentally ill. I am not a doctor. What else they call me? I have no credibility. Okay. So when you listen to this video, that's my preempt. Okay. So when YouTube decides to come for me and say that I'm giving information that is medical misinformation, this is a skit. This is a comedy act. Why are you coming here? Okay. This is a comedy act. This is a skit. I'm practicing to become a maniac like YouTube wants me to be. Okay. So super duper maniac. Okay. So should I wait a little bit? I'll wait like maybe 5 more minutes. Okay. Hold on. Oh, they send the Agent Smiths. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. It's already starting. It's already starting. I tell you, they send the agents for me. Oh boy. That's one of them. I don't know if he's an NPC, an empty seater, but he don't live around here. Just walking down the block, nonchalant, doesn't have a dog or anything, y'all. As soon as I come on, his directives from the Willy Wonka said, "Go, she's going on live. Put like a transmitter." Oh boy. All right, y'all. So let's get into the conversation. Wait, I'll wait until 500. My hair is a little messy. I threw on the hat because I like to have the hat for frequency. So bear with me. Okay. He's gonna come back around because he has to, but I'm checking out. You know what I'm saying? I'm well equipped in the car. Listen, y'all already know I carry lunches and I got mad condiments. You know what I'm saying? So you know how I get down. I'm from New York. We get bruck up. I'm well prepared. And I have a lot of angst in my heart. So all I need is someone to trigger it so I could pop, 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 pop off. Oh, come on, y'all. Come on in. I'll wait until we get to 500 and I'll start off. All right. I'm looking at this clown. Clown's of mass destruction. Self-destruction. You headed for self-destruction. Remember that? Self-destruction. You headed for self-destruction. Where'd he go? That mother-freaking bastard. What up, Jamaica? Jamaica Queens in his house. What's good, Queens? All right, y'all. I'll wait until we got 40 more people. We get to 500. I'm going to start off because, again, I don't know if this video is going to stay up. Let me just say this. Rumble is there. I have subscribers are coming. Rumble is harder for me to upload my videos, but I'm going to, all my videos that I've made on YouTube, I do save them. So they will be uploaded to Rumble. Get ready to rumble. So y'all got my Rumble, right? So make sure you put my Rumble information. Oh, look. He's going on the other side, y'all. Look. This is how, you know how stupid the Willy Wonka Agent Smiths are? They think I don't know. Like, they're stupid enough to know. Like, he walked on this side of the road. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at anything. He's walking. Now you walking on the other side. Coming back. I told you he'd come back. Hold on, yeah. Hold on. Look, he's looking around him. Yeah, you don't look like you're from here, buddy. You want to pop off? Yeah. Yeah, keep walking. Keep walking! Keep walking! Now, if he comes up here a third time, I'm going to have to swerve. I'm going to have to swivel and swerve, y'all. Anyway, check on him. Are they blocking your comments? Consider that a compliment because YouTube is on some garbage. Okay? They let every fake clown come on here and talk reckless. And then you got people on YouTube twerking, fighting. You got Fight Club all on YouTube, people beating each other up, beating people's grandmothers up, twerking, showing all their nipples and their BBLs. Like, and all I do, I mean, I got big tetas. I mean, what do you want me to do? And it's natural. Gratefully, it's natural. This is 100% real. Trashy rappers who can't rap using remedial lyrics because their brain is so fried from all the GMO drugs they're taking. But I come on here talking crazy things and they talk reckless. Okay. All right, yeah. Oh, we hit 500 real quick. Let me take a sip of the mass destruction. I'm not a mess. Look, y'all, I made it myself. That's a lie, but it's good. All right. Y'all ready? Let's get ready to rumble. Okay, so y'all, I'm gonna be reckless, y'all. Okay, so let me also put a disclaimer. Other than the mental illness that I suffer from, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a referee. I want to be a fighter, but not really. I don't terrorize anyone, but YouTube says I do. This is a comedy skit, so take absolutely nothing I say seriously because they call me a maniac. Okay, they try to take down all my old videos. All right. So I'm putting a disclaimer. And also, let me say this. You are going to probably be super purple pilled today. And I don't mean to do it. But they pissed me off yesterday when they took off my videos because I made just shares. I didn't even talk about what happened in Miami. I just shared information in some of the videos. And these mother freakers right here on YouTube deleted 2 of my videos probably because they're talking about the aliens. Anyway. All right. So the disclaimer is, please Children shouldn't be listening to this video. I want to make sure I am mindful to the little people. So you already know how I am as a mommy. I have little people. Some of you have little people. Some of you have little grandchildren, nieces and nephews. This conversation isn't appropriate. If they're like 15 or 16, that's your call. But if they're younger than that, please, I wouldn't want to be responsible to their non-peace of mind. I'm going to discuss things that are very disturbing. I'm going to super purple pill you probably. I don't know when. I can't stay on too long because I'm cooking and I'm making some really good food for my family. You know, I got cubs to feed, y'all. I got my cubs in the house waiting for me. All right. I got all kinds of cubs. I got canine cubs. I got my mama. I got my babies. You know what I mean? So, you know, take in consideration, I got a family. All right. I'm not coming on here, you know, coming on being reckless without taking care of other things. And I'm doing laundry too. I'm a Sagittarius to heart. All right, y'all. So let's get it in. So if you notice, I changed the title. The titles changed to, you know, blood types matter. The Star Wars versus the Bloodline wars. Okay. Now there's some information I'm going to give you and it's going to be disturbing and it's about the blood types and it's going to bother some of you. And like I said, this is a skit. It's a comedian skit. None of it's true. Don't believe me. Always follow up on anything I share, because you shouldn't listen to anyone without verifying it, okay? And use your common sense or critical thinking skills to be able to discern friend, foe, truth, or lie, okay? All right, blood types matter, okay? And Melissa kind of triggered me to talk about this because she brought up a video that someone brought up that was a complete lie about negative roosts. And it pisses me off because I'm like, the reason why you don't hear a lot about blood types is because people in research and who work in genetic studies usually are capped by signing contracts that disallows us from speaking publicly about these very topics because it's very sensitive, because they're trying to kill you, okay? And they don't want you to know. All right, so let's get into things. Do you guys want me to start off with the aliens or should I start off with the blood types? Because if I go into the blood types, I usually stay there so long. So if you want me to do the blood types first, I'll go blood types. If you want me to go into the aliens, because it's all interconnected, but it's going to bother you. And it's going to mess with some of you because it's going to bother you that your Willy Wonka systems have told you lies and made you susceptible to things. Okay, so we'll start off with the aliens. I'm going with the, look, we got blood types going. Okay, we'll do the aliens and we'll segue over to the blood types. And listen, y'all, I told you already, I'm a mama and I take care of my household. So I got laundry going. I got food cooking. I got the cubs waiting. I got the other cubs I got to go and take care of too. So remember, I am a mama bear and I got a lot of responsibility other than myself. Okay. So taking consideration, when you get me, this is a extra. Okay, and then I got to go on Zoom tonight with the Zombies so we could go deep diving into the antipodes. Big up to Alex, too. Okay, so let's get into the aliens, y'all, since they deleted my videos about the aliens, okay? So first of all, they're not aliens. Aliens means they're not from here, and I will definitely, I definitely disagree that they aren't from here. They're just not from your neck of the woods. They're from another neck of the woods on this terrain you call Earth, which is an Earth. It's a simulated Earth, and there's a lot of beings living here inside of it, on the outside of it, and all around it. Okay. Okay. If you want to join the Zoom, you don't have to. You can join Patreon. That's how the Zombies join Patreon, and all of us go deep diving. It used to be on Saturdays. I did Saturdays, but Saturdays is like Saturday I don't like. So we do Thursday and Sundays. We were supposed to do Saturdays. I don't like Saturdays. And we usually did Tuesdays, but Tuesdays will be for my interviews with aliens or those who are in contact with aliens or those who are talking about metaphysics. I have my beginning of the Chinese New Year. I will start the sending out the posting my videos on the alien interviews. Okay, that's on Aquarius Rising, 9th gate. All right, let's get it in. So many of you know what happened in Bayside Mall in Florida. There was an incident that occurred. Many of you, I heard about it instantly. Like I got the intel probably quicker than most because, you know, I'm about that life. And I'll start off with the incident, what was said to have happened. And and let me state this too, I really don't appreciate some of you coming into my neck of the woods, some of you bots or agents that come in here that are working for the governmental system that are meant to go in and deter or try to make it discredit certain information because you're paid. Please stay off my channel because you don't want any problems. Because remember, I'm a sweet person, but I'm not around a lot of sweet people. We got a lot of people who spell. So leave us alone. This channel is not for people who are not into that kind of sector. If you're not into aliens, UFOs, metaphysicians, magic and stuff like that, stay off my channel. Don't come in here and say, "Oh, it's a distraction." What does that mean? That is such an automated response to things to make people think that everything's a freaking distraction. You being on here is a distraction. You going to the store is a distraction. Stop coming over here with verbatim, regurgitated, automated terms because it pisses me off and I'll just block you. Okay? If this isn't topics that you want to hear about, don't come to my channel. This channel is not for everyone. That's why I've kept the same general consensus of people that come here because they're about this life. If that's not something you're about, just stay off. Don't come in here saying, "Oh, how do we not have pictures?" Why don't we all have pictures of aliens? If that's the case, you don't think that people who have had experience or contact haven't tried to get photographs? So please refrain from coming on a channel saying, "Oh, it's a distraction." What does that mean? That's an automated response. Usually bots say that. Okay. And a lot of people I look into that were saying it's a distraction. I go into their YouTube. It's like they just made the YouTube or they got like 10 people on there and no comments except on mine. I see you, Willy Wonka. Okay. So let's get into it. So we had the incident that happened at the original at Bayside in Miami. Now, what most people don't know, there was a brown gentleman. He sounds like he's from Brooklyn. I don't know where he's from. I'm from New York. He has a bit of a Brooklyn or a Harlem accent. I know Harlem, don't get disrespected because I said that he sounded like he's from Harlem. He sounded like he's either from Brooklyn or Harlem. I shared his video as it was shared to me. Big up to Kay, who shares a lot of the videos with me. The gentleman made a TikTok saying he had gone to the Bayside Mall. Now, let me state this. When you legitimize someone's account, you got to think of the facts that he shares that are unnecessary. He doesn't have to share those. When people are capping or doing things to try to embellish themselves, they wouldn't bring up certain kind of remedial kind of facts. He was talking about it like he had a perfect recount of what he was doing. Oh, he's from the Bronx? Y'all said he's from the Bronx? Oh, maybe he's from the Bronx. So as he's recounting his encounter, he said he had gone to Miami with his girl. Sounds about right. He went there on a timeshare. Now, many of you who go to places traveling, who go to timeshares, you know, a lot of times you go on timeshare, like getaways, like you book a resort on some of you have timeshares. So you have like times that you can go to travel. You can go to different places. You don't go to your home base. It sounded legit to me. He's there. Him and his girl wanted to go to the mall and it sounded real because homies, they go to the Foot Locker. Now, some of you don't know urban brown men. That is a big ritual. For a lot of New York males who are young, they like to go get their sneakers, fresh kicks, right? So it didn't sound odd for him to say he was going to go and go to Foot Locker. That's very, very, it's one of the things that I know is true, okay? So he's in there. He said he heard some pops like firecrackers. Now, listen to my account because it's going to mean something when I share things later with you. He heard what sounded like firecrackers. And, being from New York, we are just very hypersensitive to sound and to weird behavior because that's how we survive taking the iron horse every day to school or to college or to go to work. You take the iron horse, which is a subway, and a lot of times you got to pay attention to your surroundings. So New York is a very, 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 probably people from California are the same way. Like if you used to hearing weird sounds that sound like, gunshots, you may react. So he heard firecrackers. He said firecrackers because he can differentiate the two. So he said he heard that he stopped for a minute and he was like, "What's that?" And then he heard what sounded like gunshots. I think he heard it after the fireworks. But he denoted first that it sounded like firecrackers first. That matters in the other account that I'm going to share after. Then he says, yo, we got to bounce because he's like, he don't have anything on him. He's in a city he doesn't know very well. This is very realistic account. It's not like somebody who makes things up. That's how somebody's mind goes. And that's how I know he's telling the truth. New Yorkers know that when we're listening to his account, there was legitimacy in it because of the things we go through when we're living in New York. The first thing he said is like, he's not in a place that he recognized. He's not used to Miami. He don't know his place, his way around it. So he doesn't feel comfortable. And then also he doesn't have a piece on him. So he didn't feel like he could protect him or his girl. So first thing he said, he was going to bounce. That's very New York of him. And then that to me sounds all like true accounts. It doesn't sound like someone embellishing, capping, making a story up. That sounds like someone recounting actual facts that he's experiencing when he's recollecting a story that he's just experienced. Very credible, very realistic. He then proceeds to go out of Foot Locker and he sees... And it's real New York. Big up to my New York brethren, because he was like the fat girls. He was like fat people were running. Old people. Now, why does this matter? Is because it's a realistic... it's a realistic observation when someone notices people that generally are slower or less active or not normally moving so fast. When you see very heavy people, maybe obese people moving and shaking, it makes you nervous. That's a very New York reaction. Like he saw some fat people. That's what he said. He saw fat people running. That makes, if you notice things and you take in consideration, that's his observation and surveying his environment at the time. And grandmas, he saw old people running. So in his mind, the only way you gonna get fat people and grandmas to run, even if they in a cane, they bouncing, is because something that they feel is dangerous is around. So that was a realistic account. For those who came on here and said he sounded like he was lying, he recounted, we're going to talk about that because that was a realistic account. There isn't anybody who's going to make that up because you can hear the story and it's something that doesn't sound fake. It sounds like something he's recollecting. So he left the store. He's seeing fat people and grandmas. That's his account. I'm not saying it. He saw them running and then he turned around. So he's running. He's going in the direction of what they're running. The herd is running into because he wants to get out of there. He's turning around just briefly and he sees something like a big shadow and he sees it and it seems congruent, like it seems concrete, like tangible, like solid, but then it doesn't. He says he sees it show up. It looks solid and then it kind of dissipates a little bit. And then it shows up when it dissipates, it shows up closer. So it fades out. Then when it dissipates, seemingly disappears. Then when it reappears again, it's closer to them. So he's hot-tailing out of there. That's his only true account of what he saw. And it was really smart. He was like, why would you stand and take pictures when you're seeing something like that? Nobody's going to stop when Godzilla's running down the road. You do that when you're in a comfortable, safe position where you're far enough away where you feel safe enough to take pictures. He was bouncing. And the only reason... And I've been in the UFO community for a long time. The only reason he was able to give us that account is because when he came out, the Popo, now y'all, if you saw the video of all these cops coming from districts, now they said it was 75 cop cars. It looks like 200. It looks like 200. And they had the black helicopters. Is totally not that's not a district aircraft. That's some sort of military aircraft. They had a couple of the Black Hawk helicopters there. They also turned off the CBs. When the first account of the CBs, we heard a little clip of it. It says something terrorist and then they turned it off. Okay. That was turned off. You have that many officers showing up, not even from the same district. So many officers showing up from all these places. Now, first of all, y'all, anybody, big up to my Floridians because I've lived in Orlando since 2011. I'm always in Florida. I'm in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa. I know Florida like the back of my hands, almost like New York. One thing you have to realize, there are fights all the time in New York, in Florida, in Miami. Miami's broke up because you got all them different types of nationalities living there. You got Cubanas, Haitians, Jamaicans, all the Caribbean people are there. It's just it's a goulash of all these different people. And then it also gets real broke up. There's a lot of fights. A lot of young people from Miami get broke up. It's one of the places you're going to see fights. But I hadn't ever Even when it used to be drug wars, when they shooting back and forth, I hadn't ever, usually you see 10 or 15 cars. Why would they send out the whole platoon for a so-called fight? And then they accounted that the boys were fighting and they had sticks. Does that make sense? Does that make sense that you would get that kind of reaction of almost over 75 cop cars coming from different districts to attend to a battle of like savages fighting? Does that make sense? And then when they set up fighting, they kept giving you one image of these boys beating up this big lunar. He looks like he's Russian. Big lunar guy, right? Beating him up. But it didn't make sense, though, because they kept looping the same. So if people are fighting, we got World Star, y'all. World Star, you going to see fight videos like there's no tomorrow. You going to see fight videos from every angle. Most people just want to stay around to see the fight. So how come we only saw one video of a fight? It was looping the whole time. They didn't have any other angles of the fight. They had a fight going all over. You see brown youth running all over in one of the videos because it made sense. People were running out of the mall and there was a lot of brown youth in that mall. Okay? So how would you have, 200 cops? 200 cops showing up for a brawl. It hasn't ever happened. That means that they were reacting to some sort of report of something that was something bigger than they could have normally handled in a regular call to come out and address something that could be, gang fighting or whatever, what have you. Okay, so this gentleman talked about that, right? He said when he got out of the mall, because he's running with the herd, he runs out, he sees the cops stopping everybody who comes out of the mall, and they are detaining them. Now, listen, y'all, that's normal, because I wouldn't say that that's odd. That's quite normal to detain people, especially if you want to hear first eye account of what they may have witnessed inside. But what isn't normal is not only that they're detaining, they want video. They want to see if anybody took videos on their phones. Now, homeboy bounced and slipped through slipped through the coppers and went straight back to his hotel. Okay. When he made his video, he made it and he just gave the account. He was already back home. He made the account. Now, why does this matter is that most of you who are not from the UFO community, maybe you're not from my neck of the woods. One thing we know, and it's part of what happens a lot of times, whenever Willy Wonka comes for you, whether it's the dark ops, whether it's the men in black, they will always threaten you or your family, and you will always see a recant video. If the man was trolling, like the next video he made after the fact, if he was trolling and it was fake, he would have left the fake video up, because if that's what he was doing, why would he take the video down and then totally recant going to Florida, even ever going to Miami? And it didn't look like something legitimate. It's interesting. He had such a strong description of being at the mall, what he did and so on. But then when he recanted, it was so simple, not a lot of information, just very quick and easy. That is a very notable, systematic reaction that happens every single time Willy Wonka and his League of Doom come and deter you and tell you to take that information down, because he wasn't supposed to leave. Okay, now we have that video. Then we have the video of, please put a like on the video. I'm long-winded. I'm trying to break it all down because I want to go into the bloodlines. Put a like on the video if you're up for the shenanigans today. Hold on, let me put my straw. Okay, so we have that first account. Okay, this is what happened initially. That's the first video that was seen and was talked about, because no one knew what happened. Now, we knew, if you use your critical thinking, if you use your common sense, you know that it is highly improbable that many police officers would show up for a basic fight by teens, even if it's a gang fight. They wouldn't show up with all of the platoon, as many cops that were in the surrounding areas were called out. It isn't normal for police districts to turn off their CBs so nobody can hear it. It isn't normal at the same time that they turned off all the CBs, that all of the electricity was turned off in all the neighborhoods that were close to Bayside, a Bayside mall. It isn't normal for air flights leaving and coming into Miami to be halted at the time for 4 hours or more. I think it was maybe 6 hours. There was a ground stop, meaning no planes could go in and out of Miami. Now, if you say to yourself, it's a conspiracy, it isn't true, it's just a fight, why would you stop the airlines? And why would you stop electricity? Because big up to On who mentioned this. You know why they stopped the electricity, y'all? Because everybody has Ring cameras. They didn't want whatever was crawling all around there, popping around, jumping out, to be seen on Ring cameras. You do know that the majority of people in neighborhoods now all have cameras on their doors. So the number one thing they wanted to do is shut down all cameras anywhere around. So they shut down all the electricity. So for those of you who say it's a distraction and so on, why in fact would you shut down all of that information? All of that data that would have helped you find the little hoodlums, right? The little savages that you said were fighting, right? Why would you shut that down? You would want that to be seen, right? You would want all the cameras to be on so you could follow where these little boys go, right? Okay. So you have a couple things. Now, if we take out the consideration of what the gentleman said he saw or his recanting his statement, you got to say to yourself, okay, if you want to throw out his statement, you got to ask yourself, why would the police station go so far to make sure that nothing is leaked? Why? Okay? You just got to ask yourself that question. When have you ever seen a fight and they stop airline flights going in and out of Miami? What does that have to do with a fight, a street fight? What does that have to do? Why would you turn off the electricity knowing very well that people have cameras on all their house? What reason would you do that? Okay? So let's go into the second account. And there's a third. There's like 4, there's more, but I'm going to talk about a few. So why don't we go into the fact that there was another guy? Now, this one is sketchy. This guy, I don't think he's telling the truth. I think he's telling the truth about what he saw. I don't think he's telling the truth about who he is. Okay? Why? Is because there was another video that a guy came out. He says he's a tattoo artist, right? He said he was there also at the mall at the time and he witnessed something. Now, I personally I believe, and I'm using that word correctly, I believe what he says, what he saw. Who he is, I think he's capping. Okay? I think he's capping because obviously you'll hear when I tell you the accounts because those videos were taken down. So a gentleman, a lunar guy, says he was at the mall. He was kind of adjacent to the incident and he was standing up on top. I guess he said he was on top. You know how you have the mall in different levels. So the second level, looking at these young men, he saw these brown men coming in, teenagers with like backpacks, kind of like geeks, like gamers. You know how gamers show up, like backpacks, weird kind of glasses though, little odd. They had a little cassette in their hand. It looked like a little video cassette or like a little cassette you see from back in the days. They were carrying their hands. Now, the fact of the matter is, I don't believe he was that far a distance because he said he heard them say, yo, we should do it here. How could you hear that from so far up? That's what I don't think that he was that far away. I think he's trying to distance himself or trying to maybe hide something about himself because it didn't seem correct that he would be a distance, but hear the conversation about those young nerdy brown guys who had a device in their hand. Okay. So he said he heard them say something like, we could do it here, safe. Now, that lets me know that there was some technology that was there. Now, I'm going to do a little stop, get a little throwback to what I shared with you the other day. I told you that who's coming over those borders isn't just coming from other countries. They're coming from Nibiru. They're coming from ships. They're not all coming from other countries. There isn't any way you're losing 10 million men that are healthy and virile that are coming from third world countries. They don't got a beer belly. They don't got a pimple. Their hairline is straight. Their teeth is healthy. Why would you look like that and you're coming from another country? But you would look like that if you're coming from another star system, another dimension, maybe a ship, perhaps. Okay. So when you think of things like that, remember I talked about that the other day when I came on. So I just wanted to add that because we're going to go fast forward when we're going to this gentleman's account. Now, I don't personally think he's a graffiti artist. He said he's a graffiti artist. And he said when those boys plugged in that little cassette, they were down at the bottom. They plugged in the little cassette. And when he did, listen to what I said. I want you to listen. When I shared the other brown guy, what did he say he heard in Foot Locker? He said he heard what? Firecrackers at first, what sounded like firecrackers. The account of the lunar male, he said when they turned on the device, he heard firecrackers, what sounded like firecrackers, like pops. Like it was a firecracker. And then it was like, woo, 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 woo. He started to hear a sound that was really loud, kind of piercing. Also, he started to see a light being generated from this device that almost started to envelop everything around it, change and morph the imagery around, kind of like if people were standing behind this actual device that was starting to go into like a bright military kind of light. That's what he said. It started to morph the way people look behind, like lines. Okay. Now, why I don't believe he is who he is because he said he's a tattoo artist and he attempted to draw the imagery of what he saw, what he witnessed. The problem is, if you're a tattoo artist and you're going somewhere for a tattoo event, you would have a great skill of artistry, wouldn't you? You would be able to draw a basic image of whatever you saw. The issue I have with this gentleman is that he drew it as if he was remedial, like he was like first grader and he couldn't draw. That's why you got to be careful, because people did not want you to know who they were. And I feel like he may have, he drew like a 3-year-old. He may have been hiding his identity or trying to cloak it, but why he said he was a tattoo artist and drew like he was a remedial artist doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem truthful. It seems like he shows up and he's in an art studio at the time, almost like he's trying to convince us. So I don't know that he's who he says he is. Okay. That's one thing. Yeah, he's an artist. He drew it. It looks slow. I could do better, and I'm not an artist, okay? It looked slow. It looked like he was trying to convince us. He drew like when the device started, he drew like what looked like illumination, but he did say that when this bright light, it looked like a military light, and the images started to warp, there was like this field that was in front of everyone, kind of changing the way people perceived to look in front of this device. Like, you know, when you have like a heat wave and you see the waves of heat and it distorts how you see like things in front of you, kind of like that. And he said it got big and wide. And he said what he saw coming out was some sort of image. It almost looked like whatever that device was creating, it created something that would bend the field. And he saw what he looked like was like an image, like a glob or like a figure coming out. And it didn't have fingers or toes, but it came out and it looked like it had arms and legs and it kind of shaped, but he didn't see fully. He kind of, I'm not giving you verbatim. You saw the video. So he said, it just looked like something coming out, like a leg. You ever see Gumby, y'all? You watch Gumby? Because when he was drawing the image, that's how it looked, right? Am I wrong? Didn't it look like Gumby? Like an image of Gumby? You know how Gumby looks, y'all? Right? Gumby. Remember when Eddie Murphy used to look like Gumby, and I remember he played Gumby. It was terrible. It was so funny. Put a like in the video if you have any shenanigans. We're building here. Okay. So he says he did that. He said that they were confiscating people's telephone and footage. They wanted to know what was on people's cameras. Okay. So listen, I don't say that doesn't happen when you're doing an investigation. They would ask, but the way that they detained everyone coming out of the mall was more about controlling the narrative and information that was going to be let out, rather than trying to get information about what was going on. I think it was a combination of two, right? So I don't think it was just one thing. I think they were trying to control all the information that was being leaked out to the public, that would be leaked out to the public, and also trying to detain people's, trying to confiscate any information that would be damaging to, or hide, what was coming out, what was going to be seen. Okay. So let's get a little further. You guys with me? What's up my hat? It's dog fur. My dogs are all over the place, right? Okay. So let's get into that, y'all. Okay. Now, the whole Epstein thing coming out early on that date, I actually think that was meant to distract. I think people are like, oh, it's a distraction from the actual files. No, them telling you they were bringing it out that day, that was them distracting you from that mall incident. Okay. So it's opposite. They were kind of bait and switching. They were making it seem like the information about Epstein was going to come out that day, but that was their way to kind of draw some of the truthers' eye away from that. So the actual distraction wasn't the incident. The distraction was the talk about the Epstein. Okay. So let's go a little further. There was another account of a person who said that there was another written, I think their name is Moo. I shared the actual, they actually took the video down. You know that, right? They took it down. They said it. Yo, I'm telling you, Willy Wonka's on to me, yo. So they actually had a person who wrote and said that they also witnessed it, and that this was like some sort of gray kind of entity. It was really tall. They saw it coming in. It kind of dissipated and came just like the first gentleman, the brown gentleman who's from the Bronx or Brooklyn, wherever he's from, the New York guy. The person in Moo, these people don't know each other, y'all. There's no connection to the person Moo, to the lunar guy who says he's a fake tattoo artist, to the brown guy who's from the Bronx. There isn't any connection. But interesting, they all have the same account of hearing like firecrackers. That was the first sound. And then they heard shots, people shooting at whatever they were seeing. Okay. So this person Moo, and I forgot, I'm not going to do it verbatim because I can't remember exactly, but basically they were saying that there was an entity that was showing up and it didn't seem harmful. It seemed lost. And this person said there was several of these type of beings, and they would seemingly show up solidified as solid and then dissipate and disappear as if they were semi-solid and non-solid. And this person, I don't know if it's a he or she, they said that when they saw it, it seemed like the being was confused. It wasn't trying to hurt anyone. It seemed like it was lost, the beings. Okay, that was the account. Now there's another account which is amazing, because this one is like the nail in the coffin. Because according to all you people who like to come on people's channels, you Agent Smiths, you bots, you're going around saying, "Oh my God, this isn't true. Oh, why don't we have documents?" But you don't have to have documents to have common sense to know that these things don't match. Nothing sounds right. It isn't a normal incident. Okay, so you had this gentleman whose father is an officer. He's running from some sort of high position as a sheriff in Miami. He comes on. I didn't share this video because I was sharing too much, and they were already deleting videos as I went. They were scrubbing the internet, y'all. The reason why you saw me posting all the videos is because when they scrub, remember, I'm about this life. I'm about the UFO life. So normally whenever there's a true incident, they'll scrub the whole internet. So in order for that to stop, I have to post it. So what I do is I copy it, and it's real remedial. I'm not good at doing it, but I know what they do. So what I do is I usually screenshot it, record it, and then post it, because when they do in a scrub, they don't really go to your videos on YouTube. YouTube takes a while to get to your video to take it off, like they were doing to me. Okay, so with what happens with the gentleman whose father was a sheriff in Miami. He called. He was like, "Y'all are talking about this incident at Bayside." He was like, he didn't hear anything. His father didn't tell him anything. So he calls his father on live. This is real. This is not a fake video. This is a guy calling his father. He says, "Hey, Dad." He was like, "How come you didn't tell me? You said there was nothing happening at Bayside." His father said, his father's an officer, y'all. He's a sheriff. He said, "I cannot talk about it." He says to his father, "Come on, you can't say anything. If it was a fight, what kind of fights were it or anything like that?" His father said, "Are you not listening to me? I cannot talk about it. It's not something I could speak about." Who's telling you can't speak about it? Okay, so you got to ask yourself a question. The only time you get that kind of response, if it was a fight, if it was a chaotic scene with gangs, when have you ever seen them not talk about that? When it comes to fights and things like that, normally they always talk about fights. Oh, there's a fight, especially when it's brown youth, because they call them savages anyway. So, oh, some savages are fighting. How come his father took an oath of concealing information as if it was top secret? If this wasn't any interdimensional beings, if these weren't beings coming from another place, why would his father hold and retain information from his son? Even if it's an investigation, he would say, "Oh, yeah, it was an incident with some kids or some children or some savages." He would say something like that. The father totally took the fifth. He totally took the fifth and said absolutely zero. Okay, now there's another video. Big up to the sea star who figured this out. And I want to give a big up to our sun star, Alex, because I think she came to my group and got this, but she didn't have to. She just might be witty enough to do this. It's a lunar woman who made a video. And what was interesting about her video is that a couple months ago, my group had found out something. I'm not going to get too deep because I don't know if the video will stay up or not. But anyway, it's about the equal opposite end of places. It's called the antipodes. So we figured out that during the pole shift, and no, it wasn't even that. We were doing it for something else. It was kind of like Alex, big up to Alex, who's in here, Alex Francois, kind of talked about like for twin flames, like what if it was interesting, like if you lived here where your twin flame, would they be living at the opposite equal end of where you live, latitude, longitude? So it was kind of fun. So he found a way for us to look at that. But I said, let's go a little deeper. Why don't we find out that during the pole shift, because we're shifting poles, wouldn't it make sense that if we're living in this position here on this latitude, longitude, that the opposite equal end is where we'll be? So the energies of the opposite equal end kind of touch us a little bit, right? So we were messing with antipodes for like a couple weeks. That's due to Alex. So when this sea star comes out and talks about the fact that she looked at the latitude, longitude of Bayside Mall and did the antipode of it, guess what she found out, y'all? The opposite equal end is in Antarctica. Did you hear what I said? The opposite equal end of the latitude, longitude of where the positioning of the Bayside Mall is Antarctica. Y'all, welcome to the new paradigm of information. What? So then you got to think to yourself, what device did these little, I personally think they were Martians, because you know Martians are like that. I'm not going to go into the, maybe I'll talk about the bloodlines, but you know the Martians are little brown men, right? They're brown extraterrestrials. They look like hip hop guys. They usually have dreads and so on. I know you think I'm crazy, but I've told you over the year, Martians are like, they reckless. A lot of the people you see online with those droopy eyes, those are Martians. That's a genetic trait of Martians. They're brown. That's why when you looked at the when they had that image walking across Mars at one point, someone said they saw it. They look like a dreadlock woman. That's how they look. I think those young men are from Mars. I think they're Martians. Call me insane. Remember, YouTube already calls me that, because a lot of these beings coming over the border, they're not just coming from other countries. They're coming from other star places, starships, star planes, other galactic positions, dimensions, what have you. They look like Martians. Yeah, Wayne is a Martian. I think he's a Martian. His eyes being droopy. Look at Oprah Winfrey. Look at that guy. I'm not gonna say his name. He's a so-called truth teller. He came into the fake, remember, he changed his name. He had a conscious, he claims to, anyway, he has droopy eyes, those are the Martians. Okay. They look like that. I think those were Martians, and I think they opened up a portal that opened up the antipode to the other equal end. So portals open up to the other side. Okay. So I think they opened it up. I think those little Martians, I think they had technology and they had tried it before, but they heard that trying it there, I think they had very much been aware of where they were opening it up to. And I have a feeling that they knew that they wanted to do in public because it would have been safer than doing it somewhere private, because maybe they would be exposed to whatever they were pulling through. Okay. This is my account. I may be wrong, but I feel like I'm right. Okay, I think these are Martians. I think those boys, that's why they had weird glasses like the Martians, because they were trying to hide their eyes. Okay, Puff Daddy and all those are Martians. Martians are males. Usually the males don't like sleeping with females. They all like being with other males. That's what that Martian disposition is, because they come from a planet with mostly males. They don't really come from a planet of females. Okay, we don't even know if Oprah Winfrey's a female. That's a whole trans investigation. I haven't delved into that. I don't want to. Okay, she says she is. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so we go into that. So personally, this is my take. We had a visitation that was prompted by some technology that was used by some of these beings coming through the border, bringing some bootleg Martian technology, causing wreck, knowing that it would open up. Now, perhaps they had tried it before and it worked, and they just closed it before anything would come through. And maybe they just want to be reckless, because if you know anything on the Martians, they're just really, they can be really nefarious. They're very like, they act like fairies. You ever see that fairies can be a little bit of like playful and a little bit, act like that, like gnomes a little bit. Okay, so I think these little Martians had some technology and opened that sucker like a mini CERN. Yeah, walking around their own version of mini CERN, like in a boom box, like a little cassette, like a Walkman, looking like a Walkman. Opening up portals in the mall, y'all. Y'all, we in those times. You said Harpo. Listen, I'm just saying. We can't verify that people are female male anymore, because they've been, after the whole what's the name, Dionne Warwick shenanigans, after Paris showed us, after Paris showed us a Dionne Warwick, I just don't trust any so-called females unless she, I don't want to go through the trans investigation, y'all, because that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother can of worms that I won't touch right now, y'all. Okay? It traumatized me for weeks. All right. I just want to leave it alone. Okay. So that's my take on the beings. I really don't think they're aliens. I actually think they traveled. They were because the antipodes is the equal opposite end. So when you open up an actual portal, it opens up a door to the opposite equal end on the pole. So those beings were already in Antarctica. I think those beings are living there, so they crawl through. And if you talk about the stories in Antarctica, most of them are like type of bug beings, like spider beings. You heard about the story. There's so many stories. There's a major story. It was a documentary we read a while ago. And they were talking about these guys who were going to do work in Antarctica. And there was this being just cutting off their heads, like biting off their heads. And it was like a type of insect that lived underneath the ice. And they kind of defrosted it and it came to life and it was just eating people. So I think, by the shape of it, it looked like Gumby. And I don't know, because the account is really sketchy. But by the account of the people, it looked kind of like a Gumby being. Okay? It looked like that. If I'm going by what their accounts were, it didn't have fingers or anything. You see how Gumby has just nods on the end. Okay. So I don't know. Okay. So anybody see Gumby? I give you accounts of things I can associate it with. Okay. I think it was some sort of being that was connected to those beings in Antarctica. It definitely makes sense. They did the antipode. He opened up those Martians, those nefarious little Martians, opened up a portal that opened up a door to the equal opposite end, which is the same. Remember, coin. It's just like a coin. You have a coin, right? A coin has a head and a tails, right? Even in the poles, we have a South Pole and North Pole, right? So when you open up the middle of the coin, what happens? The coin from the left or the heads on the right have access to that space, right? To the other side. So that's basically what it is. It's like opening a door, opening a hole between the coin. So whatever's on the right can enter to the left and left to the right. You understand? So it's kind of like that. Okay. And I think it was the little Martians they were talking about fighting. I think that was Martians. I think they were trying to find them brown boys. I think them brown Martians, because I think that's maybe who they were looking for. That could have been, now that could be connected. Now, I wouldn't say that that's wrong. Maybe they're looking for those suspects and they were the ones who opened it up. So I could see that could have been a concern. But the fact that they're Martians, they're not going to find them because they came up in the mall. They had their own exit. They know what they were about to do. They had an exit in. They might have left through the portal. We only know that things were coming through. How do we know they didn't go back? They didn't go through the portal. But how do we know they didn't go through the same portal that those entities were coming through? They're gonna be real cold, but they might have exited through the portal. Okay. Looking for Puff Daddy. Who said that? Y'all are out of control. All right, so are we done with this? Do you guys want to talk any more about that? That's my take on it. I definitely think there were beings that came through. Your Willy Wonka's hiding it. They're making people recant their statements. They're hunting down people online to kind of hide the fact that there is some entities here now that have been let through. And apparently in this one thing where that person wrote about they're witnessing these beings, they said that they weren't afraid of any guns or anything that were being shot at them. So people were apparently shooting at these entities and nothing was happening. They weren't afraid of them. Okay. All right. Shelby, I don't know. Like, we won't know anything. They shut down everything for 4 hours. Like, whatever was around. And from what I understood from the lunar guy who said he was a fake tattoo artist, he said the device broke. Like, it broke. So if a device breaks, doesn't that mean that the door closes? So whatever came through, if it came through and that thing broke, that motherfreakers right now are walking in Miami. Trying to catch a flight. That's why the government shut down the Miami flights. They didn't want the motherfreakers getting on the plane. They didn't want them catching a flight out of here. Those motherfreakers right here are in Florida, coming to Disneyland near you. Y'all gonna be walking to the beach and seeing boom, 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 boom. You're gonna see like Gumby toasting himself, getting a tan on the beach. Just take a picture. Okay. All right, y'all. So that's my take on it. You can kind of talk about it. I wanted to make this video because a lot of people were disturbed and there was a lot of bots and agents on my channel. If you're not open to this kind of conversation, if you don't believe in aliens, if you think that you're the only intelligent being, and to be honest, the beings living on this firmament are the most idiotic, hostile, anti-human, just killing, just genociding, killing all the trees, killing all the animals, having sex with grass. Why would you think that we're the most intelligent thing on this planet, in this universe? How could you possibly think that the beings here are the most intelligent throughout the mass space we call the universe? If you really think that, you probably are just one of the remedial people that needs to be recycled. Okay? There are beings beyond measure. We are very limited here. That's why a lot of beings won't show themselves to us, because we're savages. You got people mad about complexions, for God's sake. You got people who will look at another person of another complexion and get mad and beat them up and kill them. Just for a complexion, y'all. That's like a black cat seeing a white cat like, meow. Like, yeah, like, I'm going to kill you. Meow. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. We got problems, y'all. Mental illness is one of them. Okay? So I don't think any being really sees us as anything other than like some sub-tier, low-grade savage ourselves. Okay? We can't even get over that. You know what I mean? You can't even walk around without, people trying to pop off and twerk. You know what I mean? They're not trying to come for us. Okay? I'm just saying, if you think we're most intelligent, I just question your ability to just have common sense. We're probably the lowest on the chain of intelligence. I would guess, maybe I'm wrong, and I don't want to speak for all of us, but we're probably the lowest on the chain of intelligence, galactically, intergalactically, and otherwise. Okay? When we're still getting mad and trying to lynch people because they said that they wanted a president to live, and you gonna kill him because of that's remedial. You still telling people that if you're born a female, that you could be a man, or a man, if you're born a man, you could be a female based on just doing some cosmetic surgery and wearing makeup and heels. I mean, I'm just saying, it doesn't sound very intelligent to me. When you go to the congressional hearing and you ask what is a woman, and nobody could tell you that it's 2 X's. You have your eggs that you've had your whole life. You have fallopian tubes, and you're able to give birth through your vagina, not your butt. Okay? So if you ask that question in Congress, they say they don't know what a woman is. Okay? I'm just saying, this is a hood. If I was another being, I would lock my doors. I would lock my spacecraft driving through, because the U.S., the whole planet is the ghetto. You talking about the ghetto in certain neighborhoods? No, I beg to differ. I think the whole motherfreaking planet is ghetto. I think all beings here need to be recycled. Oh my God. Anyway, y'all. Okay, so we're gonna get on blood types, right? You ready? I can't stay in too long. How long did I stay on? I'm not too long. Okay, so let's get in blood types. Blood types matter, right? Instead of saying Black Lives, first of all, let me say this, because I'm tired of hearing it. And some of you need to check your brethren who keep saying it. There isn't any group called Black Lives Matter. Please stop saying it and using it as weaponized bias. They don't exist. The men that created it because they were being killed, stopped, frisked, and murdered as they were walking. All of those men who created that group were murdered. They were lynched and killed. Please stop using that term. I notice a lot of lunar channels, they keep bringing up Black Lives Matter. It doesn't exist. And the fact that you keep bringing it up and no brown people bring it up, it makes me think that you're prejudiced. Stop it. It's really agitating. Check your brethren, y'all. It's just tiring. Those men were killed. And a whole nother group of Sorois, Antifa people took it over. There's no such thing as Black Lives Matter. People who are of color don't support that. All the tokens that you see on television, we don't even know if those are brown people. Those are probably aliens, gray aliens with black masks on, okay? Did you see what do you call it? Lovecraft? When they had, like, they took a potion and they could turn into the other ethnicity. Please don't. Brown people don't say that term. I haven't met a brown person yet, and I'm sure I met more brown people than people who aren't brown. I haven't heard any brown people rep for Black Lives Matter. We don't even use that term. Stop using it because it makes me think you're prejudiced. Okay, because you keep talking about that in Obama. Bush was a bastard, and listen, Obama could be married to a man, but Bush's wife, that wasn't a woman either. So let's keep it real. We're going to keep it real. If you're going to keep it real with Mr. Michael and his big wand that he doesn't like to strap up in, you darn Skippy need to talk about Bush's wife, because she didn't look like anything. She didn't even try hard enough to look like a woman. Okay, so stop it. I just want to put that out there because I'm tired of hearing it. And it's agitating to hear people that are calling themselves whistleblowers, but they're still suffering from forms of prejudice. And they don't even know it. That's how non-self-aware they are. Okay? Black Lives Matter doesn't exist. And if you say it, I'll think you're a bot. Okay? They don't exist. They never did. That when they did exist and they were started, it was for a legitimate reason, and those men were killed and lynched. Look up the story. Okay. And a whole bunch of lesbians took over. Does that sound like who don't like males? So why would you think that exists? It's disgusting. All these people are flip mode, y'all. It's a Satanist country. There's no such thing as anything real. Anything that you see that is female, that's being propagated out there, you may question the authenticity of her gender. We don't even know that they're real. Okay, this whole planet is ghetto and it's flipped. You'll think you're looking at Meg the Stallion, and she bends over too tough and that tape falls off. You may see something flying in the wind. Y'all sitting over here masturbating to Meg the Stallion. Meanwhile, you don't even realize by the very nature of his name tells you what he is. Y'all sitting over here getting excited by a whole man and calling yourself alphas and straight. Stop it. Yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible what we're doing to our youth. It's terrible. Okay, y'all, let's get into blood types. All right, so I'm not gonna stay too long because I don't want to destroy your peace of mind. Listen, I don't want to see. Can I say this? Please don't send me any more trans investigations. I'm disturbed. I become mentally ill every time I've seen somebody that I really liked. And listen, I don't mind that they become something else, but I want to know so I don't have feelings about it. Please just stop sending it to me because it messes with my peace of mind. Listen, Sarah Jessica Parker, that ruined me. Because I like Sex in the City. And then when you look at her and you're like, oh my God, that's why she looked like so masculine. Like they used to call her horse face. I thought that was so mean. Like, why are you calling her a woman horse face? And then I realized, oh, well, after the trans investigation, it's because she's a female wouldn't look like that. It's disturbing. It's disturbing. Don't ruin my peace of mind anymore. There's certain lies I need to hold just to stay here until the pole shift, please. Because if you let me know anymore, the pole shift, Dionne Warwick was enough. When Paris shared that was enough for me. Dionne Warwick did it for me. I after seeing that, I totally lost it. Okay, so all you trans investigators, please Please, for my peace of mind, just so I could last through the poll show, please don't send any anymore, because I can't last. I can't take it. It's bothering me. Okay? Please don't do it. All right, so let's get into the bloodlines. Now, this might upset you, y'all. Let me put a disclaimer, because you know YouTube is going to say I'm fake, and I'm giving medical and misinformation. So, you know, for the protection of myself and for this video, I have to claim my mental illness and my lack of qualifications. So it makes them leave me alone. I am mentally ill. This is a comedic skit. I know nothing about what I'm talking about. I'm a clown. I'm really someone who's getting therapy. Okay, so let me put that out there. So when I share this with you, Willy Wonka will leave me alone. Okay. First of all, let me do it. I ran out of my lip gloss. This is what happens when your little ones use a lip gloss. Hold on, y'all. Let me use my lip gloss. Look how much I have. No more lip gloss in here. My lips are really dry. I need to live at the beach. My lips would never be dry if I lived at the beach. Oh, that's good enough. Okay. All right. Earlier, Melissa, I blame you, Melissa, for this. Melissa shared something about someone making a video about negative ruse. Okay. Someone who probably doesn't even have a hand in genetics or heredity, who's never sat in a laboratory and worked with any form of genetics, knows nothing about DNA or the chromosomal makeup. Okay. This is something I have a level of expertise in, but for the sake of YouTube, I'm not qualified. I'm not a doctor. Okay. This person made a video about negative ruse being a royal bloodline, it being the oldest, it having all of these, it has a lot of copper base in it. What else she said? Coming from an old Eastern European bloodline. I do know that the origin is most likely Eastern Europe. Yes, I do know that. Let me say this. Okay, let me just explain, y'all. And this is what I know. Okay. And the problem is you have these people who embellish certain bloodlines. Let me just state this. You do know that 98%, and this is all I know, because the 2% I don't know. 98% of all of your legislators and your political representatives, presidential and otherwise, are all negative ruse. Do you all know that? Can someone tell me? Because maybe I could be wrong. I know there's 2% that could be something else. But as far as I know, globally, the majority of people holding a political position of power are all negative ruse. Can anyone tell me anything otherwise? I'll just wait for a moment. And I said 98%. I think I'm on point, but if anyone knows something different, I'll wait for you to tell me. Okay. I'm going to bring up that because you have to realize. Now, let me say this. The negative roots that are here, that are regular people, they have absolutely no power when it comes to what those people do. So I have to say that because what I'm going to share is important. It is highly improbable and imbalanced for the majority of political and leaders to hold a negative ruse when 85 to 90% of the planet is positive ruse. Let me state this again. Why would you have less than 1% of the population, which is negative ruse? Negative ruse is an anomaly. It isn't something it's a very minute group. It's not even a minute group. It is less than 1% of the population has negative ruse. It isn't a large number of people on this planet, in this firmament, that have negative ruse. How is it possible that majority of your leaders are all negative roots. I'm going to leave that there without judgment. Listen to me. Okay? Why would you tell people that negative roots is the stronger blood type? It is untrue. Anything that is that is an anomaly, that doesn't have numbers, the highest number isn't the strongest. It means it's a nominal blood type, very obscure. It's probably beings that are not from here. I can tell you that's my opinion. Negative roots is not beings that are from here. The majority of people who have negative roots have very odd genetic dispositions. They tend to be very psychic, yes. They have hive mind, meaning that in the collective, all the information in the collective, they can access. If you have a negative roost, whether they're brown or lunar, they have access to all the info. To disturb my live already. As soon as I talk about blood types, you guys there? They're already trying to mess with the live. Okay? Majority of your negative roosts have an obscure blood type, and they can access all information in the collective. They're hive-minded. So let's say I'm negative roost. I'm not, but let's say I'm negative roost. I have a homegirl who's negative roost. She's living maybe like 1,000 miles from me. Something happens and it affects maybe it's something that happens, and it's something that, let's think, something that happens maybe weather-wise, right? And she's experiencing something that happens in the weather. Inside of me as a negative roost, I have access to that new information, and I don't know where it's coming from, but I now start to look around my house like, oh, I should weatherize my house. I should cover my pipes. Like maybe she had a snowstorm or something, and all of a sudden, as a totally different person, my girlfriend's all the way 1,000 miles away. I'm a negative roost. She's a negative roost. She's starting to have weather issues. Maybe it's a snowstorm. She snowed in. It's uncomfortable. Automatically inside of me, I would have an acknowledgement of having to do something to protect myself from that cold weather. That is access to communal, collective consciousness. That is what the negative roost has. They're highly psychic, and that I always want to talk about the positive. Okay? So that is part of what negative roost is. Now, as far as saying they're copper based, I have to disagree. This is where I don't know what kind of lies people tell. Like they'll tell some truth, but they won't bring up things that are factual. Remember years ago, and these are things I can prove and are factual and tangible, okay, based on my background and what I've known personally. The number one group that has the highest amount of copper in their bloodstream is O positives. Remember years ago, there was a big rave on copper bracelets. Remember that? Copper bracelets, taking copper, colloidal copper, wearing copper jewelry. Remember that, y'all? Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember that? It was like a copper phase. Like, remember, it was like everybody wanted to wear copper, okay? At the time, I was taking colloidal copper, just a little bit. It's buffering. They don't want me to talk about this. Oh my God. Okay. Is it messing? It's going to stop. Can you guys hear me? Oh, Lord. Can you guys hear me? Let me know. Every time I'm about to tell the truth, oh, they're going to stop the feed. Can you hear me? Let me know. Okay, I'm going to go quickly. Okay. Put a like on the video if you're up for this conversation, because they're going to try to delete this video. When they do things like that, they don't want me to talk about it. Okay. So the majority of people, so during the time I was taking colloidal copper, okay, because it was good health reasons, it kind of refreshes you or so on, I got really sick. And I started to have really bad heart palpitations, like, like to the point where I thought I was dying. And I was like, what the heck is that? I was sick. I wasn't feeling well. I was lethargic. So finally I went into the doctor. Can you hear me? Oh, I think I messed with the feed. Okay. I went into the doctor and I was like, yo, because they respect me. And this is where you got to give me credit, because I have a big enough background that doctors listen to me. And they asked me for advice. That's how respected I am in the medical field. So I said to the doctor, I need a panel. I need you to test my thyroid, my T's. I need you to check everything. I need to find out my hormonal balance because I'm getting a little more seasoned. Check these things. I put on a couple things. And he said, is there anything you're taking or doing anything different? I said, oh, yes. I'm taking a little colloidal because I don't take medication. I'm taking a little colloidal copper, but I don't think that should affect me. But you should test my any form of metal in my system. Okay. So next thing you know, within 48 hours, I get a call. The doctor tells me to come in. He doesn't want to tell me over the phone. I come in, he says, well, everything is clear. Gratefully, everything's clear with your system, but you have a high amount of copper in your bloodstream. And you who know best, you know that. Now listen to what he says. He says to me, because he knows I worked in genetics. He said, you know best. He said, you as an O positive woman of color, you have more copper than most people have. You have a higher amount of copper. Nobody has as much copper as O positives. So you cannot take copper or take any copper supplements because it's going to mess with your body. Now, holy cow. He says this to me. I'm like, oh my God, this makes sense because copper is also the reason why people don't gray. You do know that copper, people who age quicker don't have a lot of copper in their system. Copper helps you to regenerate and keeps you younger. Copper keeps you young. So what happened is that I removed all the copper. Within 72 hours, I felt better. I kind of buffered my system, kind of muted the copper that was in my blood. I did a chelation. Many of you know I'm big into chelation, and I basically kicked out all of the copper out of my system that was coming from the colloidal. Then I found out that the reason why I wasn't getting grays early like everybody else is because I had so much copper in my system. My grandfather had passed away and he had maybe 5 strands of gray in his hair at 97. Okay. It keeps you young. And I knew, and I said, oh my God, O positives live the longest. They're the most regenerative. Actually, we look the youngest for the longest period of time. We actually have that gene that disallows us from aging. So O positives are the people that are the most regenerative. So if you're telling me that O negatives are with a lot of copper, that's a lie. Why? It's because O negatives age at a more rapid rate than O positives. Also, O negatives or negative roosts have less eggs per long period. So generally, they only have a certain amount of eggs and generally they don't have babies long. So even in my community, all this came together in my community. I remember that a lot of the Jewish women would save their eggs because they knew that at a certain age, certain time, they wouldn't have a lot of eggs long term. So they would save their age. A lot of wealthier women. It's not just Jewish women. A lot of younger, healthy, wealthy women would save their eggs because they didn't have a lot of eggs. And it was all negative roosts. They don't have a lot of eggs long term. So they weren't able to have babies later on. So usually they try to save their, and I agree with it. I didn't think it was, some people have a problem with it, but I feel like because they had less eggs for their lifespan, I think it was a good choice. Just me, as someone who worked in it, I thought it was a good choice. Some people think that's being God, but getting Botox is God. Going on a diet is God. If that helps them long term, if that helps them long term, then by all means, then that's the case. You know what I mean? O negative as a brown female, you got to be careful because remember, are both your parents O negative? Probably not. Probably one of your parents is O positive. So a lot of times when I'm talking about positive roosts and negative roosts, do know that the majority of you, other than someone who has constantly, like my generation, my family, we are generations of O positives. If you have been O positive, like your mother and father, it's not a recessive. If you have an O positive mother and a negative father, that makes you a recessive. Like I can't bank on you being a total O negative if you have O positives in your family. So when I'm sharing these things with you, it's a generalization based on observation of your overt roost disposition that you show up with. So if you look regenerative, you just said as a woman of color, first of all, you're melanated. So you keep a lot of more elasticity. You have a lot more longevity in your genes because you have a lot of melanin. And then also, most likely, you have a positive roost parent. So you may not be a total O negative. When I talk about O negatives or negative roosts, it's usually from both parents. So if both your parents and mom and dad are negative roosts, you have less eggs per lifespan. You have less eggs. And you can look it up, y'all. For those who feel like this is information that bothers you or you want to look further into, I always challenge you to always challenge the information you hear from me. Go look it up. I want you to look at people who have both parents who are negative and positive. And I mean, negative and negative. And tell me their genetic disposition of having children. Usually they go through menopause a little younger and they don't have children older. They have a shorter span of being able to give birth to children. Two positive roosts, if they're O positive, they can give birth to children well into their 60s if they're healthy. This is not what we're living now. A lot of us are exposed to GMO foods, homogenized chemtrails in the sky, water that's fluorinated. These are things that have a problem with you. The problem where I have is that a lot of the information that's shared, I'm going to give you something that's really awful and it's going to bother you. But a lot of people are being told information that isn't helpful for them genetically. So those of you who've gone to a geneticist, who've done genetic work on yourself, you already know this. That's why the wealthiest women, and I know this from working years ago when I was young, the youngest, the healthiest, the wealthiest women that I knew that were stockpiling their eggs from young were negative roosts. They were told that they do not have a long span of having a lot of eggs. They didn't have as many eggs as the other blood types. So they were suggested to hold their eggs in an egg bank so that they would be able to preserve their fruitfulness longer. It is not a lie. You can look it up. They don't tell you this. And I wish I could tell some of you this. I wish I could tell some of my negative roost friends, because when they're younger, I say, if you want to have babies or do a career, I would tell them and I would give them advice. Or go to someone like a geneticist to tell them to give advice so that they can have children later. A lot of times they don't find out until it's too late. And that isn't fair. So I don't say this to say, but I really have to say that it's important for you to know this. Okay. And that's for my negative roost friends. And melanated negative roosts and lunar negative roosts have a similar disposition, but generally this is the same for both. Okay. The only thing is that they have less eggs per lifespan. That's what I'm talking about. So, and if you want to fact check me, go to countries where women, Spanish countries, because most of us who have O positive, we come from Central and South America. A positive is more in Africa. So most of us who are from the Americas who are O positive, we have a longer span to give birth to children, healthy children. If we're healthy, we have more eggs per person. I, as an O positive, have 2 times more eggs than my O negative counterparts. Okay. You can fact check me. And it's important for everyone to make sure they take care of that, and to make sure that they take care of their genetic, their heredity, especially women. I think a lot of women wait a lot of times to give birth to children. And this is something that you should know. And I would love for you to really look into that. If you're like in your 20s now and you're negative roost, this is my recommendation. I'm not qualified according to YouTube, so I'm not a doctor. This is what I would do. If I was a negative roost right now and I was in my 20s, I would go and do a genetic based, I would do a folic test and see how many eggs I have. And based on that, they'll tell you their span of how long you'll be able to give birth to healthy children. You can make a decision based on that. Okay. I'm going to say something that is more controversial. This is the purple pill part. So put a like on the video if you're up for the shenanigans, because I'm going to share something that's really diabolical, y'all. This information is not taught. And the only reason, and listen, y'all, do not get mad at people who work in the field. I'm going to tell you why. Because in my field, we sign contracts. A lot of people have, you're either contracted with with private organizations, sometimes personal contracts, and you sign it. And I was under, how many years? I was under a statute of like, one was for 7 years and one was for 12 years. So meaning what do you call it? It's like an NDA. You sign your contracts. If you're doing privatized work, you aren't allowed to speak of this. So don't get mad at geneticists or people working in the field. That's why you won't see them come for me online, because they know what I'm saying is true. They just won't do it because they're under contract. You're not allowed to talk about it. If you find certain things, the reason I'm well past that age and that time frame, but you won't hear about it. I think it's very important for you to take care of your genetic health and to know that it's important for women if you want to have children that long. But like I said, when you're getting people online talking about, they're really misleading people, telling people that, negative roosts have a lot of copper. That isn't true. That isn't true. It's actually O positives. And it's not positive roosts. It's O positive that has a heightened amount of copper, and too much copper in their system can cause issues. It can cause heart issues and other issues. And when they were pumping, a lot of the things that they're doing and promoting in public media is to hurt O positives. Even with cucarachas, y'all. Remember they lied and said it was A's that were being most affected by cucarachas? And meanwhile, while they're telling you that, the majority of people that were dying initially from cucarachas were positive O positives. Do you know that? So they do that purposefully. A lot of your foods, like a lot of the allergies you have in foods, is directed towards bioweaponry towards O positives. O positives are the most directed weapons are done towards O positives. So all your foods, like there's a lot of foods that O positives have aversion to, and there's a lot of frequencies that O positives have aversion to. Their whole system is based on weaponizing foods, frequencies towards O positives to lessen that blood, because they are the strongest. They're the most regenerative. We live the longest, and we're strong. We're physically strong. If you meet an O positive female that's both parents is O positive, physically they're stronger than most. We have that's why you want to mix with a gene pool if you have any healing you want to do. And also for those who are O positive, we got to be careful with nuts, because nuts are the reason why O positives end up getting cancer. It's one of the things that hurts O positives the most. Like nut milks and all that stuff that was weaponized towards O positives and positive roosts. Okay? So that because why? Is because we're more sensitive to molds, like on rice. So when you see people like when you see people that are O positives and you see them with weird kind of cancers and so on, you got to ask their diet. And a lot of them were, almond milk, cashew milk, peanuts. A lot of you grew up eating a lot of peanuts, a lot of nuts. That's because they're mold. It's not the nuts that bothered us. It's the mold. And most of you don't realize a lot of your rices, your nuts, your beans have a lot of mold on them in the silos. It builds a lot of mold and those fibers. So it's important for you to clean those things off, because you're susceptible to getting cancers based on having too much of that. So when you are O's, if you're O, do know that the entire governmental system, Willy Wonka, is gunning for you the most. They are. And all the foods are weaponized. Like even with safflower. Safflower is a genetically homogenized, weaponized oil, and it harms O positives. It attacks our guts. And it's all inside. Look at your foods, y'all. Look at safflower. Go eat a bag of potato chips. All of a sudden, remember, it's bad enough they used to have genetically homogenized that other oil, which is what's the other homogenized oil? It's a geo oil. It's what's the oil? Wait a second. It's it's the oil that's genetically homogenized. Canola. Thank you, my love. Thank you, Anne. Canola. It's worse than canola. If you're a positive O, you should avoid safflower. It will mess with your gut. It'll destroy your whole gut. Safflower. And it's in all foods. They just start anything that they bioweapon. And that is why, and I'm going to share something with y'all, because this is where the purple pills come in. The majority of the food is weaponized. Soy, all O negatives are allergic to soy, and they're highly, highly sensitive to any form of sulfur. So like that's why penicillin, amoxicillin, all the cillins bother mostly O positives. And it also has to do with the interface with copper in their bloodstream. Okay, so these are things you have to understand. The people who are most affected by it, that's why the food is being weaponized towards O positives. It's very important for you to grow your own food and make sure you keep microtoxins off of it. The reason why coffee bothers me the most is because it's microtoxins on it. Because most coffees have mold from being stored in silos. Okay, that's why you clean it off. Sulfur is, sulfur is not in everything. It could be deterred, but sulfur bothers many people who have that are O positive. Okay, so soy is a lot of things. That's why soy doesn't bother bees. Bees don't have a problem with soys as much. That's why you see populations of Asians that do well with soy. They don't even have a problem as much with sulfur as we do. Bees don't have a problem with sulfur. A's, you have a little sensitivity to it, but bees obviously more balanced, but A's tend to do okay with like certain kind of fish that isn't frozen. And the most times you have issues with your fish, especially like with like qu'est-ce que c'est? The like shrimp and crab. It's not so much because of those type of insects because the insects under the water. A crab is just basically a spider. Shrimp is just is a roach. The same allergies that if you have towards roaches is you will have it for shrimp. So people who eat a lot of coffee or things that are in silos that they break down, they grind it down, it has bugs in it. You're going to have allergies to it if you have a sensitivity to shellfish. Okay, because a lot of roaches and stuff get broken down into like coffee things that are diced and minced a lot. Okay, shellfish, most of the time you have issues with shellfish because it's not so much the shellfish, it's the decomposition that happens, especially when you freeze it. It releases like sulfur into the flesh. So most people, if they eat fresh shrimp that hasn't been frozen and they eat seafood that hasn't been frozen, they aren't going to have such a reaction, like a anaphylactic kind of reaction with the seafood. Okay, so if they eat seafood that hasn't been frozen, that's why there's a difference in price when you eat seafood that has been frozen or seafood that has just been chilled on ice. That's why in the Caribbean you rarely hear of people having issues with seafood, like even with crabs, because most of the stuff is coming straight off the boats, and most in the Caribbean, people are going directly to the boats and getting the fresh seafood and eating it that day. So they aren't waiting for it to break down the sulfur. The longer the seafood sits and it decomposes, is the more that sulfur is released, and that's what causes the reaction, the allergy to the shellfish. So if you eat seafood that's not chilled long and not dead long, like if you go to Chinatown, places where they eat, like the Caribbean people, I think Chinese do the same thing, a lot of Asians do the same thing. My mother used to go to Chinatown to get the crabs, and she would make it that day, that moment. Nobody had a reaction. When she started to eat seafood that was frozen is when she started to have what you consider to be an allergic reaction. It wasn't to the seafood, it is to the decomposition that releases a certain kind of sulfur into that crab. That's what the reaction is from. Okay, so I'm going to share. They are sea bugs. You know that, right? I don't want to. Am I bothering you, y'all? Do you care that I tell you that? I'm sorry if I'm ruining your peace of mind. Please put a like on the video if you're okay with the shenanigans. Some people are not affected by sulfur. Some people are not affected by sulfur. So when I talk about sulfur, remember, I'm self-diagnosed. I'm talking about people who have an O positive disposition. Not everybody has a problem with sulfur. So when I say that, I'm talking specific, you're getting a lot of bird's eye view from someone who's an O positive. So because I worked in genetics and heredity, I know certain things, but also because I use my body, I know my body and I know others. So when I talk to other physicians and other doctors, the wonderful thing is hearing that information and being able to verify that and use it against and kind of fact check across a sample group in the population. Okay, so also when we go back to negative roost, do know that a lot of times what happens is that because there's such a big number of negative roosts, I've talked about this before, and Jimoji's on here. I want to thank Jimoji for this information, and I think it was so helpful that you shared it. Jimoji had shared the fact that she had someone she knew that was in the prison system, or a friend, no, someone she knew who knew somebody in a prison system, and the government was paying the prisoners $50 a pop for their semen. Okay. And then they were putting them in cells according to their blood types. So while you are sleeping with everybody else, sleeping with any blood type, being chaotic with your offspring, they're basically weaponizing and studying certain semen so that they can create more bioweaponry and attacks towards that specific bloodline. This is why you giving any of your access to your bloodline. This is also why probably the Jews are banned from giving any of their doing any genetic testing in Israel, if I'm correct, right? They're not allowed to do a genetic test. You know why? It's because when you find out someone's genetic testing, you can actually create a weapon against them. So I personally think that's smart, that they don't allow people access to their blood type, to their blood lineage, so that they can create weapons against them. Because as soon as you give people access to your genetic information, they can create weapons against you. And unfortunately, these young men that are in prison, they're pushed against the wall because now they don't have physical autonomy, and they are basically selling out their genetic coding and letting the prison, because remember, most prisons are privatized, y'all. Do you even know who owns the prisons? A lot of these are maniac, genocidal maniacs who own the prisons. These are genocidal maniacs that own prison systems. Most prisons are not federal. They're mostly owned, privatized. And in those privatized prisons, they're allowed to do listen, when people talk about the whole Holocaust, do you realize that there are people now that are being harvested, their organs and their genetic information, and that is a form of the same thing that was happening in Auschwitz? You do understand that the prison system is basically a concentration camp, and they are making them work for pennies, getting paid a whole lot of money off of material and all kinds of devices and things that they have prisoners made, it's slavery. It's basically it's governmental slavery that's still instituted today, and they're using their genetic information to be able to cap them and also to make things that ruin and hinder their genetic coding. It is very important for you, if you have any nephews, any cousins, anyone, listen, and I know a lot of people have issues with me saying this, and this has to do with the hybriding that's happened here. But the fact of the matter is, desegregation had nothing to do with the freedom or having equal rights for brown people in America. Let me state this again. Desegregation in America had nothing to do with freedom or free rights for brown people. It was to have access to your bloodline, access to your genetic codes, because you were going to different doctors. You didn't have access to other places. People weren't able to look into you. Now, when you started to desegregate, now you're giving access to people who now want your genetic information to create bioweaponry towards you and your offspring. Believe me, with cucarachas, you already know that was targeted towards O positives. I don't care what anybody say. Positive Rus was the most infected by it. Find out, why is it that all of your government is owned and all mainly negative Rus? How come mostly negative Rus wasn't in? How many negative Rus? There wasn't many negative Rus that were impeded by cucarachas. The majority of people who are negative Rus didn't get cucarachas. And if they did, they got it because they had a sensitivity based on having one parent that was most likely positive Rus. And if they were negative, the O negative, and they had a positive Rus mother, they had a 50% chance of getting it, but they still had a 50% chance of not getting it. So it's very important for you to realize that the information coding, and I'm going to share something, y'all, because they tell you that O negative is a universal blood donor. I'm going to tell you, y'all, it's a lie. I'm a maniac. I'm a liar. I'm not a professional. It's my opinion. Okay. It's a lie. They aren't the universal donor. Why would they be the universal donor when the mothers who are negative Rus have a baby that's positive Rus in their womb? It kills the positive Rus. So why would you call the same? Do you understand how do you understand what they told everybody? So now your blood banks are full of O negative, and it hurts people who take it who are O positive. That's a lie. They told you they're universal donors so they would have an excuse to inject that in positive roosts. It lowers the immune system of positive roosts and leaves them susceptible to diseases and viruses. That is, you got to listen. How is it? Use a rational thing. They're telling you that they're universal. That's a lie. Why would a negative roost mother holding a positive roost baby in her womb kill it? And then you would donate that blood throughout a whole system of positive roosts. No, that's cap. They did that purposefully so they can put that in positive roosts and lower their immune system, making them more susceptible to all kinds of other things and lower their lifespan. I have proof of this. I remember my mother was really sick. Many of you know during the first conference I did. And I've got proof of this in many ways, but this was one. So she was sick. Her blood levels were low. So I said to the doctor, I said, listen, give her my blood. She could take my blood. I could donate it. That way you can give it to her. The hospital at the time had some sort of weird law. I think they just made it up in there and just so you couldn't do this, where I couldn't donate blood to my own mother. So I said to them, listen, I'm a healthy female. I'm of age. I can donate as much blood as she needs. I'm healthy. They would not take my blood. They would only take blood from the blood bank. The majority of the blood bank is made of the universal donors, which are not universal. They put O negative blood into positive blood people. My mother had a harder time recovering. She's O positive because they added that blood to her system. It dampened her immune system, making her weaker. Sea stars, stop sleeping. If you're positive roost, you should not be having sex with negative roosts. Because I will tell you this. I remember one time there was a gentleman who was negative roost. We're hanging out, whatever. I will tell you, from my exposure to him, my immune system automatically dropped. Why would you be letting a blood type that is known to kill off its offspring of another blood type? Why would you put that in, call it the universal donor? That makes absolutely no sense. Listen, I had to share this with you today. That was one of the main things I wanted to share with you. Be careful of taking any blood from the blood banks because they're going to put universal blood, and it isn't universal. Any blood that kills off its offspring in its own womb because it's an opposite blood type, why would you think that should be in your body? It kills off positive roosts. Anyway, y'all, I think I've gone too far. Please put a like in the video. I don't know. I should go. I don't want to. I'm sorry. It was a revelation that I made. And I'm a maniac. I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified. I'm an idiot. I'm a clown. Do not listen to me, but y'all definitely do your own facts. They are weaponizing. There is a hybrid group that is here that's nefarious. It is negative roost. It is the Skeskis. They are trying to kill off all of the indigenous that are in this plane that are more natural, and they're putting these geo-engineered, weaponized, genetically homogenized viruses and diseases all in the food source, the sky, and in the blood source. You got to be careful what you take. You have to be very mindful. I'm not talking about the average negative roost. We're not talking about negative roosters on here. They're not part of those creatures. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the ones who are in governmental Willy Wonka systems that are using genetic information that you're giving them. You know what? And all the tests that they made everybody take for cucarachas, y'all, I personally think now, the tests up the nose, all that stuff, they were getting more genetic information so that they can create a better bioweapon to institute that into the population later. That's what I think. Because when you do your genetic testing, you usually do the swabbing up the nose. You know that, right? Or in the mouth. You do it around like the mouth, inside of the mouth, or you do it in the nose. Okay? They were probably taking that out. And also the gentlemen who are in prison systems, and I'm so sorry if some of you, unfortunately, are there for very less charges, like selling marijuana that The government is selling now weaponized GMO marijuana that's killing the youth. All this weaponized mushrooms that they're putting out there on people. I'm so sorry, young men, but you need to take more onus on who you give your DNA to. $50 isn't enough. Your brothers from back in the days would have starved themselves to death before they gave their enemy their blood or their information genetically, because it destroys your family. When you give them your semen, you're destroying your children, because they're going to create something to destroy your offspring or make you or your children unable to give birth. Stop giving them your information. And also, sun stars, stop sleeping with women that are opposite ruses or from genetic makeups, because they're taking in your DNA and they're taking that information within them. And it's making you weaker and it's making them stronger. It's $5,000? K-Ka said it's $5,000. Is it 5,000? Oh, you said 5. No, you were just saying no amount. Okay? I share this all to say, I give you facts first. If in fact we were living in a balanced system, you would see 50% of the people in your political systems and your Willy Wonka systems who are ruling over you, they would all be 50% positive roots and it would be 50% negative roots. Or there would be less negative roots because there isn't that many negative roots. Why is your whole governmental system negative roots? And you have to understand, when people have a genetic directive, their goal is to preserve themselves. And if there's too many of you like roaches, they will kill off at least 90% of you just for good measure. Be careful of who you lend your information genetic to. Do know that not everybody does it. For the sea stars who are positive ruses, I say do not take blood from the blood banks. You can get plasma. They create plasma right now. They can do that separately. That has nothing to do with genetics. And also, you need to find out the hospitals that allow you to have your family members donate. The fact of the matter is that people are not taking donations from family members that are healthy, but would prefer to take a blood bank of, because remember, blood has frequency too. So a blood bank, first of all, who's donating blood? It's not a high frequency person who goes and donates blood. That's someone who's very desperate. So you're taking that kind of blood type, that take kind of that frequency in your body. And also, if you have a blood type that's basically hybrid and it isn't from this plane of existence, negative roots isn't from here. Y'all are from somewhere else. That's why there's not many of you. And I'm okay with that. I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful that you're hybrids. I think it's a wonderful quality. But that in itself doesn't give you the right to take, for the government to take that and use it to destroy the ones who have more of a harmonic connection to this plane of existence. That isn't right. And there isn't more copper, because if there was more copper in negative roots, then they would live longer and they wouldn't get grayed earlier and they would have longer genetic birthing time. They don't. That's because they're not from here. They're not meant to have give birth like that. Maybe where they come from, it's a shorter time span that they have chance to give birth to children. It just may be from the planet they came from. I don't know. But for that reason, it does not say that you are the preference of you shouldn't be the total preference for governmental representation, because in any government, there should be an equal amount of representation. If the majority of people here are positive roots, why do we have a whole governmental system that is 90% of a less than 1% population of people? You got to ask yourself that question. Okay. And if you're A's, I talk about this already. A's, you have more of a connection to nature, whether you're A negative or A positive. B's, you have a compartmentalized brain. A dark ops likes to use you because your brain works in such a magnificent way, but you're also sensitive to sugar, whether it's distilled sugar, which is liquor. And that's why most B's have a hypersensitivity to alcohol allergy, which makes them euphoric, which makes them easier to become alcoholics. Okay. So A's, whether you're A negative or A positive, you both have a connection to nature more. B's, be careful of the yak. O's, do not sleep with any other subtier, because if you sleep with anyone who isn't an O, they're going to take down your level of longevity. You're going to lower your immune system by sleeping with some of the subgroups that are in like A, B's, and B's. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Okay, You don't have to take anything, because remember, I'm not qualified. I'm an idiot. I'm a liar. I'm not anybody. And ABs, you're very balanced. ABs are the people I want in groups. If we fussing, like if we get in a battle, I want an AB around. That's one thing I say. ABs, I got appreciation for y'all. I don't care if you AB negative or positive. You're the only ones who can neutralize situations. Actually, I want to see more ABs in congressional meetings. I don't care if you're negative or positive. If I saw more ABs in the government, we would have a better, more cohesive government. We wouldn't have as many battles, okay? Because ABs are the balancer of the beams. They tend to have a much more neutral disposition. Whenever they're around, they tend to balance out the meridians. ABs you want, whether they're negative or positive. You do. You want them. They're the balance beams. We need them in our lives. We need more of y'all. Please take over the political system so we can be balanced. O's, we're aggressive. We're the battlers. We're the warriors. Whenever there's a war, that's why they're attacking us. O positives. We battle. We're built to last. I broke my finger one time. I said it myself. That sucker was back. Nothing in the x-ray showed a broken finger. We regenerate like nothing. We're here to last. So we battle. So when you want somebody to go to war and can hold a leadership position, O's will do that 1000%, whether they're positive or negative. O's are just strong. They're strong. They're leaders. Okay. Like if you have some genetic abnormality and you need to fix it, you want to mate with an O. It doesn't benefit an O, but O benefits you. Okay. So if you have some genetic, because usually a B and an A may have genetic abnormalities just a little bit, because a genealogy doesn't have as much dexterity. The chromosomal makeup doesn't have much dexterity. So you basically can mate with an O and it'll heal the genealogy. Like if you have any issues, like genetically, because O's generally, especially O positives, have just really strong genes and regenerative. And whatever abnormality we have in the blood, we fix it. And I've known, not here, there's some Mexican women that are out towards Guatemala, if I'm not mistaken, or it might be Huaca. Is it Huaca? Huaca. It might be Huaca. Is it Huaca or is it? I know they're near Guatemala. Don't get me mistaken. I'll figure this out. But there's a bunch of Mexican women, and a lot of Mexicans that are indigenous Mexicans are O's. Okay, they're O's. They are able to lose their teeth and grow it back. It's a small group. It's probably more people who can do that, but these O's are able to grow their teeth back. Can someone, I forgot it. I think it might be Huaca, because Huaca might be there, or the ones close to Guatemala. I forgot. I remember studying that back in the days. So in Mexico, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're very regenerative, beautiful. And that's also why they attack the Mexicans too, because of that. Whatever group has some sort of magical or great quality, they want to destroy it because it's a threat to them. So it's important for everybody to really pay attention to who's being vilified. Like the Haitians are vilified, but they're the most magical. They're the strongest. Actually, they have vibranium on their island, so it makes them extraterrestrial. I actually think that the actual Haitians have an extraterrestrial quality that makes them very magical and powerful and strong. They're the smartest in the Caribbean. I'm a Caribbean girl, I'll tell you. They're very smart. And when I say smart, like intelligent beyond natural means, it's very hybrid, like very strong personality. And the governments want to kill them off. Mexicans are the same. Mexicans are another group. The Cambodians are another group in Asia. They want to destroy the Cambodians. Remember when after the Cambodians had that thing with the dragons, the dragon beings. Remember in The Golden Child? Do you remember The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy? And there was a dragon lady. She was like the serpent lady behind the curtain. Do you guys remember the show? Was it The Law? No. Yeah, it's called Golden Child. You remember that? Anybody remember that? Remember the lady behind the screen? The serpent lady? She was like a dragon, right? He was like talking to her. Yeah, the nigga lady. Yeah. I think she was like Cambodian. Can someone find out she's Cambodian? Cambodians have, I'm going to tell you the groups that they vilify the most. The Cambodians is the Asian group that they demonize the most. That's the one they try to kill off. Remember? They try to genocide them. The Haitians, which is in our northern hemisphere, northwestern hemisphere, those are the ones that kind of demonize the most. They have the most magic. They have a connection to another star. I think they have a connection to, because remember the beautiful vibranium, that asteroid that went there, they might have been the genetic connection to those beings. So who's to say? Because they attack Haitians. Like people talk about Haitians, but these are the smartest beings there are in the Caribbean. They're smart. Like when I say smart, like super duper, and they're magical. So they attack the Haitians. They attack the Mexicans the most. The Mexicans are, if you go into Mexico, even with Dr. Sebi, for anyone who likes Dr. Sebi, you do know Dr. Sebi, the reason why he was able to create healing modalities, he got it from Mexican people. You know that, right? Like, he was in Honduras. He was trying to heal himself. That's why I love that he was so honest. He got that from Mexicans. And when I go into Mexico, y'all, let me tell you, they aren't as indoctrinated. That's why y'all are afraid of the cartel, because they smart as hell. The cartel, any thugs, excuse my language, any thugs or crazy people, you know who they're afraid of? They're afraid of the cartel. It's because of the bloodline. That's the Apache and the Comanche that left the Americas. Those are the Mexicans over there. They're smart. They weren't as indoctrinated. You ever talk to some Mexicans? Very smart. Who in Europe? Who's most vilified? In Europe, the most vilified are the Irish. The Irish are the most vilified, and the Scottish next. So you got to think the Irish have the connection to all the Celtics, all the elemental realms. They have the most magic. That's why they created a whole bunch of coups with Shannon. And remember, the Catholics and the Protestants were fighting. They created a coup. The Irish have and remember, the Irish are also the ones who were taken on ships. The number one people taken on ships in the as far as contactees were the Irish. They have a very unique quality. They're connected to the Celtic, to all of the different realms, the different Celtic realms. They have magic in them, and they aren't as indoctrinatable. So that in itself is why they really vilify the Irish and the Scottish. The Scottish are the second, the Irish are the first. So that's there. And the Irish are still to this day. I mean, even what they're doing with bringing all these people into Ireland is disgusting. Like, they're bringing in all of these different groups to really impede on them. And the Irish are the ones who will fight. Okay. I mean, as much as they've been through with the Queen, doing all kinds of craziness to the Irish and how demonized they were. And then in the Middle East, Syria in the Middle East, and Syria and what's the other place? Syria and so on. Even though people would say it would definitely be Israel. Israel, though it's the smallest country and it has the most Arab nations that are always coming at it, it isn't the most vilified. Why? Is because it's connected to the United States. So even though if I had to go, because I'm rational. If I look at all the places and I say to myself, Israel has a really unique bloodline. It has multiple bloodlines. It doesn't just have one. Israel has, like, my God, it has the Jewish people from Turkey, Morocco, the Arab Jewish people. Then it's got the Ethiopians. It's got the Somalians, the Yemenis, like in Israel. So it is one of the places that has the most unique combination of all of these different bloodlines that are kind of infused in Israel. In Russia, they got Russian, the Ashkenazi. What else did they have? Eastern Africa, Northern Africa, Southern Europe, Spain. Don't forget the Spain, because the Sephardic Jews are mixed with the Spain, right? Spaniards, Turkish. They have a very unique spectrum. But what happens is that the most vilified they're revered in a kind of way. And I think what's happening with Israel is more of a jealousy. It's just my thought. It's more of a jealousy of anything, is that they're there and they're doing so well. So I think what's going on more so in how people feel about Israel has to do with more of like envy thing. And I could be wrong, but I think it's more like in the Middle East, they tend to do as well. Like they built up that Israel in a short period of time, whereas most places they've stayed pretty primitive for a longer period of time. So I think with Israel, it's more about jealousy. Like you have Tel Aviv, you've got Jerusalem that's there. It's a lot of things that go on there. So I don't think I don't think they're being I don't think they're being attacked for the reasons people think. I think they're being attacked as like it's like a whole bunch of haters. Like you move somewhere and the neighborhood was real jacked up, and then you move in there and everything, you got like the best couches, the best houses and stuff. I think that's more of what's going on there. Because even when you go on into the United States, the Jewish people do well. Remember, they own a lot of the companies. So if they were being vilified just by being the people, you would see them being attacked and not being able to hold positions of power. They hold most positions of power. So they're not being attacked they're not being attacked and limited, but they're being attacked because they did so well in such a short period of time. I think that's more jealousy. That's what I think. Yeah. I think that's more of what it is. And I think because you're in a block where everybody's suffering, I think, nobody likes to see people do well in the midst of the hood. You know what I mean? The person with the best house in the hood always gets targeted. You know that, right? You do know that, right? It's sad though, but like the cleanest, the best house in the hood always gets attacked. Always gets attacked. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. That's what Israel is. They're in the hood and they're going to be attacked because, they the best house in the hood. So people don't like, someone doing better because it makes them seem like they didn't do enough. That's all. That's what I think. So anyway, y'all, I hope that was helpful. Please put a like on the video if you're up for the shenanigans. We talked about the aliens. We talked about the bloodlines. I hope this information, like I said, I'm not qualified. I'm an idiot. I'm a maniac. I'm, mentally ill. This is a comedic skit. Always verify things I share with you. A lot of these are just my opinions. It's important for you to just pay attention to, if I share things that really drive you to want to inquire, then I'll always go deeper into researching. You wouldn't ever, didn't Israel genocide Palestine? Not yet. Are you saying Palestine is still there, right? If you ask that question, are you asking the question, did they genocide Congo? Because the Congolese right now are being genocided. Do we talk about what's happening in the Congo? I mean, if we're going to talk about Israel and Palestine, I think our first conversation should be about the Congolese that are being killed off and gentrified and being murdered in mass rates to take all their resources. So I don't like to go and skip lanes. I like to kick it because remember, that was happening in the Congo way before what happened in Israel and Palestine. So if we're going to talk about one thing, why don't we talk about the places that were weaponized and killing off and genociding people before we go in there? You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's interesting that if a place is dealing with that, there's a whole lot of places that deal with it. So why are you choosing one crime as opposed to seeing others? The Haitians are over in our neck of the woods. Nobody's talking about what's happening to the Haitians. Nobody's talking about the Biden program where all of the most educated people from Haiti are being extracted to leave all of the less educated people there, and it's going to become worse. No one told you that, did they? Okay. No one told you about how they're stealing all the resources over there, and basically they murdered the whole prime minister, and not one of you said anything about it. Where was the Haitian flag up on everybody's page saying, hey, help Haiti? Nobody said anything. You know why? You already know why. You don't want me to say it, right? Because you're going to be like, oh, you're saying it. You already know why. Some people have the complexion for protection. Some people don't. So, you know what I mean? Were you guys worried in Palestine when brown people in Palestine were being killed off because they had dark skin and they were black in Palestine? Did you guys go to their rescue before October 7th when Palestine had a whole bunch of African looking brown people and they were being murdered and beat up and vilified and marginalized? Did you guys go into Palestine and said, make Palestine balanced again? Did you go and help the Palestinians that were darker skinned? Because before you go into Israel and Palestine, did you go into what happened to Palestine before Israel? I'm just saying, like, I always feel people are socially engineerable. Like, you pick and choose things based on social engineering. The government says something, the news media says something, and now everybody supports it. But they're not supporting anything with people that are darker skinned. They only support things that are like all those wars and how come you have all of these Ukrainians that came in the country. There was 260,000 plus Ukrainians that came to the country. And then you don't understand why there's sleeper cells killing off people in Idaho right now, because everybody thinks that Idaho wouldn't be touched because there's no Chinese and African people going there. But you don't realize they have another weaponized group that they use that looks like Europeans that are all in the Midwest right now, causing wreck. I'm just saying, look past your social engineering. I have to every day. Like, I have some things I got to work on. I'm not beyond reprieve, y'all. Really, I have some issues. So I got to work on myself. But I'm just saying, when you say things like that and you bring up a blanket statement when you don't even bring up the preamp to the things before that, like bring up other things. That's not the only place that's happening. But did you check Palestine for killing off? So do you realize that when you do things nasty to your own people, then you get a karmic debt from others, right? So do you not think that maybe Palestine is experiencing certain things because of the way that they treat their own people? So if you have injustice happening in a country and then you have another form of injustice coming, do you not realize that maybe the way that they may be treating their own people, darker skinned people, could be why other lighter skinned people are treating them that way? Everything's karma. Oh wait, a drunk, aggressive, or Ukrainian man tried to bully you to buy him beer at a truck stop in the Midwest. I told you, y'all. No, and how come your other channels are not telling you about the Ukrainians that are the sleeper cells all in the Midwest that are taking over all the patriots? How come nobody talks about that? How come I'm the only one who brings that up? No, where's all your prepper channels talking about the Ukrainians? They only want to talk about the blacks, the Africans, the Chinese coming through. How come you're not talking about the Ukrainians? 260,000 plus, and I think that's a very, very low number. 260,000 plus Ukrainians. You don't ask yourself, where did they go? You didn't ask that? They went into the Midwest because those are where the patriots are. All these sleeper cells that are going to be released, everybody's looking for dark skin and Asian eyes. I'm sorry, y'all. They wouldn't put those people in the Midwest. To cull a population, you're going to bring people who look like you. How come all your intel is like, how come you don't see all your Alex Jones or Canadian prepper talking about that? Because they're full of it. They're controlled opposition, y'all. And you know I like Alex Jones. It's all controlled opposition. Okay? So before we talk about Palestine and Israel, why don't we talk about the things that are closer to home? And then if you want to get into that conversation, yeah. But unless you know Palestinians personally, because you don't know them. You don't know Palestinians personally because it's very hard because there's not a lot of them that are here. And unless you know Israelis personally, I don't think that's something you should really speak on unless you go deeper. Like, we happen to know people in this neck of the woods. So what you're seeing is not always what you're seeing. That's what they're promoting. Okay? But until you start acknowledging other places that have been dealing with more genocide, more so than what you perceive is happening there, that's not a conversation you should engage with unless you're going to be fair and balanced. Just like having a whole bunch of negative roots as your governmental officials when there's not even that representation in the population. Okay, let's put our thinking hats on. Blues Clues. All right, y'all. I gotta go. I gotta finish cooking. I gotta go wash my clothes. All right, so I will be on tonight. If you want to curse me out, tell me I'm an idiot, whatever, you can come on Patreon and join us tonight on Patreon. I'm gonna be there 7:00 p.m. Central Time. We're going to get deep into the aliens in the mall, and we're going to talk more about blood types. But I just wanted to add the blood type thing because it pissed me off that they're telling people that O negative roots is a universal blood type, O negative. And basically, that is the worst thing they could ever say. They're putting that blood into the system, the same blood that kills off a positive roots in a womb, and putting that all in the blood and on the bloodstream. Try to talk to, if you feel like you're going to get surgery, if you have some medical things you want to address with your family, go and ask your hospital where you're going to get it that you can donate blood or a family member can. Just know that Now all the truth is coming out. More will be coming out, but that's something that's important because that was one of the things they flew over the chicken's coop, is telling everybody that there's a universal donor. That's not a universal donor. That was Cap, to make you susceptible to putting their DNA in you and hindering your bloodline and your immune system. All right, y'all, I'm out. I wish you well. I hope this was helpful. Don't hate the messenger, hate the message. And also, if you feel like I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about, fact check me. I double dog dare you. I dare you. Fact check me. I'm an idiot. This is a skit. This is a joke. This isn't even real. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not qualified. This is a skit. This is an acting gig I'm doing. Okay. All right. So I wish you well. See you tonight. Take care. And I'll talk to you next time. It might be a while though. Okay. Peace.